And we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen. Welcome to Blockchain Banter. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a wonderful discussion planned and an amazing panel here. We're going to be discussing DeFi on Mantle. And maybe we can start off with some introductions. We have Gabe here from Mantle. Gabe, maybe you wouldn't mind going ahead and starting us off, giving us a brief introduction of yourself and of Mantle.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Jen, and thanks for having me. Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Gabe. I currently lead DeFi growth at Mantle. For those who don't know Mantle, Mantle is essentially a couple of things, right? So we have the Ethereum Layer 2 network that's based on like the optimistic rollup stack. We have the the Mantle treasury. It's also the largest, one of the largest on-chain treasuries in the world, with over 700 million in liquid assets, including like 270k ETH and ETH derivatives. We have a whole growing ecosystem with 200 plus dApps and counting. And Mantle also counts itself among a multitude of partners like Bybit, Hyperplay, Sozu House, Eigenlayer. And I think probably the main question that a lot of people ask is what sort of makes Mantle stand out, right? So Mantle in itself, from the tech standpoint, I think we were the first Ethereum layer 2 modular rollup, allowing us to sort of be an early adopter in adopting cutting edge technology. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with Eigenlayer, which has been taking all the hype for these past few weeks. And Mantle is essentially using co-developed a data availability layer alongside the Eigenlayer team, which was known as EigenDA, which sort of powers Mantle DA, right? So what this essentially means is that Mantle is able to achieve significantly gas fee savings, and also while maintaining high throughput, all while being secured by the Ethereum network. So in essence, Mantle aims to sort of be this very inclusive and EVM compatible layer. So anyone coming in from other EVM ecosystems like Ethereum or any other layer 2s will find a very, very similar experience, all while being a very easy environment for developers to build on. So yeah, that's Mantle in a nutshell.
A lot going on over in Mantle, huh, Gabe? That was like a nutshell, but there were so many different parts of that, right? So we're going to dig into, yeah, we're going to dig into a few of those for sure. I'm going to pass it over to Bruce. I saw that you had dropped, but you rejoined us. Are you there? Are you able to unmute and test us out?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Bruce is with FusionX. Happy to have you here as well. If you would go ahead and introduce yourself and FusionX to us.
Yeah, definitely. GM, everyone. First of all, thank you, Carbon team and Mantle team, to give us an opportunity to present FusionX on the stream. Hi, everyone. My name is Bruce, and I'm the co-founder of FusionX. FusionX is like one-stop DeFi solution on Mantle, including but not limited to AMM, perpetual, and upcoming stablecoin. We are working on we are building on Mantle since January last year, and with the great support of Mantle's DeFi team, community team, and all, we continue to build the DeFi ecosystem on Mantle. We want to be Mantle the #1 DeFi chain on Ethereum Mantles.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bruce. We're going to get into FusionX just as much as Mantle, and what kind of sets you apart as well. What you're currently working on, some exciting news, I think. And Mark, if I could pass it over to you, we've got Bancor project lead, Dr. Mark Richardson with us.
Yeah, thank you. So Vancor is an older project. It began working on decentralized exchange products back in 2017. It's probably best known for inventing something called the automatic market maker, which has since become sort of a widespread technology across lots of different chains and lots of different projects. We've been through sort of several iterations of that model, including the first concentrated liquidity description, which back then was called amplified liquidity in 2020, and now at what we're calling asymmetric liquidity, which is the trading product represented by Carbon DeFi.xyz. And so, yeah, our mission statement really hasn't changed. We are still trying to find ways to utilize smart contract infrastructure to support, liquid token economics, I think is probably the best way you could describe it. And Carbon DeFi is a pretty profound change in the philosophy of on-chain trading, in the sense that it allows liquidity providers to quote prices rather than subscribe to prices that are being quoted for them by the protocol that they are using. So yeah, it's a big change. And with that change, we're also sort of pivoted towards more of a B2B model. The purpose of Carbon DeFi is to be everywhere. And the way that we're approaching that is to license that technology to others who wish to deploy it themselves and maintain their own deployment with their own project wherever they want to put it.
Thank you so much. I noticed there was an announcement, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, something along those lines, that the ARB Fastlane, Bancor's ARB Fastlane, was deployed on Mantle and integrated maybe 6, 7, 8 of the leading DEXs in the network.
Yeah. So the Carbon DeFi system, while that product is standalone, there are a sort of symphony of products that sort of cooperate together in order to achieve sort of the best result. One of those is the ARB Fastlane protocol, which is essentially a decentralized solver network. So if anyone is familiar with how CowSwap operates, or how 1inch Fusion or even Uniswap X operates, the ARB Fastlane is very, very similar to those concepts, except that it is a wrapper on top of all of the liquidity on chain. And so if you think of the ARB Fastlane as being a key interacting piece that buttresses the Carbon DeFi product, then sure. In Carbon DeFi, you can post quotes and then have a solver network run it for you. But in reality, it's a little bit more general than that, because it uses all of the on-chain liquidity that it has available to it, and this is usually dependent on what interfaces those DEXs offer and how fast it can be integrated. But the objective is to eventually support every single type of on-chain liquidity product. And so yes, we've currently moved that to Mantle, and it supports all of the major DEXs there. And so if people want to run an arbitrage bot, and they're not really sure how to get started, we've already deployed it there, and that product is constantly being improved. And there should be a new refactorization available sometime in the immediate future, which is going to massively improve its performance as well. So we're very excited for that.
And Bancor had integrated FusionX. Bruce, you guys were one of the DEXs that were integrated, right?
Yep. So yeah, would be very happy to talk about that. Like how you guys I still remember when I saw the first video of Carbon, where how it provides asymmetric liquidity and how people can do pretty much things like grid trading with the help of Carbon. So I think I think me and Jen discussed that, and how we can bring it on Mantle and all that kind of thing, right? So I think I pretty much love this idea of providing this kind of custom strategy for users itself, okay, where they can pretty much do buy low, sell high, okay, and to execute those strategies through Fastlane, FusionX along with other DEXs are already integrated. And some alpha will soon have something called Supernova.
Bruce, you kind of just threw that in there. You're talking about it, and then you're like, some alpha will have something called Supernova. And then keep going. Can you tell us a little bit about Supernova or no?
Okay. So basically,
if that was kind of the alpha drop and that was the end of it, that's okay too. I understand, but if you could tell us some more.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, for our audience over here, we partnered with Banker to launch their Carbon DeFi as a Supernova on Mantle, where people will be able to easily, our existing FusionX users will be able to get, the access of those custom strategies, providing in-range liquidity, having limit orders and everything where you don't have to pay the gases. So yeah, we'll be launching it this week. We are doing some fine tuning, and we'll be launching Supernova for Mantle users this week.
I had seen kind of little Easter eggs around, right? I noticed that you had tagged Bancor in something, and I had commented myself. But you hadn't really announced this yet to the community, so it's kind of exciting. I don't think like the greater Mantle community really knows yet. So it's nice to see.
This is kind of an alpha that's why the listeners.
And you said you have it planned for this week. Is that right?
Yeah, we are working.
We know anything can happen, right? So we don't want to. I always say we don't give timelines, but you kind of threw it out there. So
we are working on some fine tunings right now regarding the boards and everything. Once that is done, then we will announce that with rewards for our community to try out Supernova.
Okay, so let's talk about the rewards then, Gabe and Bruce, if we can. I know that there was Mark, I'm sorry, did you want to add anything to it? Bruce just announced that he was bringing Carbon DeFi contracts over to Mantle, and I didn't even give you a chance to address that at all.
No, that's okay. I think that there's nothing I can really add other than that Carbon DeFi is designed to be a white label product, and so to launch it under the Supernova brand is something that I'm super excited to see.
We'll come back to that in a minute, Bruce. But you had mentioned the rewards program, so maybe if you wouldn't mind. Gabe, is there an active rewards program going on currently for projects that are looking to develop on Mantle? I know there was. Is it ongoing at the moment?
Yeah, so there's typically a few ways how we sort of support the projects building on Mantle. So initially, a couple of months ago, we had the Mantle Journey program. So it's kind of like a ecosystem-wide incentive program, right? Where we incentivize builders based on a leaderboard, based on certain metrics. So depending on how well your protocol performs in terms of transactions and TVL, and then they will get a portion of a reward pool, right? And the users, on the other hand, for using these protocols will also get rewarded for their activity in the ecosystem. So it goes very much hand in hand, right? So on the leaderboard itself, we pick the top 50 from the transactions and also top 50 from TVL. So, and I think we gave out about 10 million in MNT tokens that went directly back to the protocol teams themselves. So the protocols can use that as incentives and also and to reward their users, right? I think on top of that, we recently launched the Mantle Missions program as a follow-up campaign. Mantle Missions is essentially a quest aggregator where these protocols who have already received their rewards can then create a quest that can be highlighted on essentially a Mantle landing page, right? So everyday users coming into the Mantle ecosystem can just go to this page and figure out, okay, FusionX is running a quest program and is rewarding users for interactions like X, Y, and Z. So that's how it typically works. We've been running it for the past 2 weeks now, I think, and yeah, I think it's been pretty good so far. A lot of protocols have been creating quests and getting highlighted on Mantle missions.
That's awesome. It's nice when it involves everybody, like the developers, and then it helps build the community. It really does. Bruce,
Exactly.
It was the Journey campaign that you had participated in, FusionX had participated in, is that right?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, just wanted to add a little bit what Gabe mentioned perfectly. So yeah, FusionX was part of Mantle Journey previously, and we got very much good exposure in terms of adoption and everything, thanks to Mantle's DeFi charts. So yeah, the amount we received, like being in top 3 in both TVL as well as transaction count. So the amount we received from Mantle, which is going to be there for user incentivization. That is what we are going to use to reward our Supernova users. Okay, so we are currently working on those kind of metrics where because we will be launching Supernova first and then a couple of other products as well. So we will be helping, we are allocating those rewards to certain quests, and once those things are finalized, we will announce it. So expect some good juicy rewards for people to try out Supernova.
That's awesome. And it'll obviously be on your Twitter account is where we can kind of find out more about it, right? I'm sure once
Definitely.
we see the
Yeah,
news.
all our socials. Yeah, all our socials like Twitter, Discord, and TG. If you guys are not, if our listeners, if you guys are not there, make sure to join the community. All the announcement will come from the official Twitter, Discord, and TG accounts.
Awesome. Mark, can I bring it back to you a minute? We had spoken about the ARB Fastlane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how it had integrated FusionX. Now, this also plays an important role in Carbon DeFi, or in this particular case, Supernova, right? I don't think we touched on that earlier.
Sure. So there's something that I think maybe is a badly understood a concept in DeFi in general, maybe all markets in general, and that's that 99.9% of the volume comes from bots. And in an on-chain scenario, usually these bots are arbitrage bots, but they don't necessarily all have to be arbitrage bots. And if people were paying attention to the last call that I had, I do consider things like aggregators to be a type or like a very specific flavor of arbitrage bot. And so the way that that I think the most helpful way to think about on-chain liquidity is essentially that there is the chain itself, and there's all of the different protocols that offer different exchange rates or different token quantities at a specific exchange rate on there. And users of the chain will either interact directly with those liquidity sources via the front ends offered by those projects, or via a type of arbitrage network. And the preferred mechanism, I think, or the mechanism that we should be encouraging people to operate through is via those arbitrage networks. So if there's an aggregator on Mantle, such as Odos or 1inch or something, in general, we prefer to sort of direct users towards those types of front ends, because it means that they're getting really good rates, which is good, and it means that also those aggregators tend to go to extra effort to protect the transactions that they're executing against the most malicious forms of MEV, things like sandwich attacks and so on and so forth. And so how Carbon DeFi sort of is integrated into that sort of fabric of the on-chain liquidity is that the people that are creating liquidity by offering tokens at certain prices, essentially become a part of this this macro meta order book that the chain represents. And rather than have people come directly to the app to trade, which is again another mechanism that's available there, it might be better to assume that those prices are going to be discovered and those orders are going to be filled via one of these more sophisticated networks. And so the ARB Fastlane protocol is a type of aggregator in the sense that it is using the price quotes that are offered on other protocols in order to fill the orders that users are creating on Carbon DeFi. And so people can create, people can create orders and then have the confidence that when the market has an appetite to trade at that level, that the order flow is going to be directed into the liquidity that they've created, and that's the main motivating factor for making sure that this thing exists and works correctly. But then on the other hand, it also means that there is now a new demographic of people that would like to use that resource, which does things like improve the number of transactions, the number of unique wallets, and the total trade volume that's being executed on a certain chain. So there's really the arbitrage Fastlane and the Carbon DeFi protocol are sort of they represent two different sides of the same market. You've got Carbon DeFi, which is where people want to quote prices and create liquidity or make liquidity, and then you've got the ARB Fastlane, which is for people that want to take markets or take liquidity and interact with price quotes. So it's it's about bringing both sides of the market that sort of underpins this efficient market hypothesis idea, or that essentially that you can't have just takers all the time because markets will become dysfunctional, and you can't have obviously everyone just making markets all the time because markets will become dysfunctional. So to bring both of these core technologies together to Mantle at the same time is no accident. It really does create a more fluid DeFi ecosystem when both of those things are there. And like I said, these things exist as a part of a greater tapestry of DeFi liquidity products. They're not they're not standalone things. They interact with all of the other on-chain liquidity sources. And this is generally true across all blockchains that have a thriving DeFi infrastructure. So this is the philosophy behind having both of these products available and running both of them on the chain at the same time.
So it'll also work as a sort of built-in execution bot for Supernova also.
Correct.
Yeah. Gabe, I want to ask you, because we've been talking about FusionX and Bruce kind of throughout the alpha about Supernova. Being the DeFi growth lead on Mantle, what sort of things are you guys working on right now? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, for sure. I think in general, the Mantle DeFi ecosystem is still pretty young and growing. So it's been almost a year now since the initial mainnet, and we've gotten quite a lot of very talented builders, very loyal builders building on Mantle, with most of the foundational pieces, right, of the DeFi ecosystem. So we got your DEXs, lending markets, perpetual DEXs, and I think that's like the baseline every DeFi ecosystem should have, right? And I think where we sort of want to move towards to is creating a more mature and composable ecosystem, right? The two philosophies that we've always relied on or leaned on to is sustainability and composability, right? We want to create a very sustainable DeFi ecosystem where it's not just, okay, let's create a new coin with really high emissions and try to hit like the highest APRs, right? But that's very unsustainable, and we are here for the long game, right? Where will Mantle be in like the next 10 years or 20 years? And that's what we are building for. And composability, meaning how we can create a very collaborative environment where DeFi protocols can rely on each other and build on top of each other in a very composable manner, while also creating real yield that is not just supplemented by token emissions. So there was a few ways that we pursued this. So Mantle, other than like the Ethereum layer 2 ecosystem itself, right? We have the Mantle liquid staking protocol. So it was our foray into the liquid staking game, right? For ETH and ETH derivatives, which has proven to be quite successful so far. We launched it in December of last year, and right now I think Mantle LSP and its governance token, not governance token, but its liquid stake token, METH or METH rather, is now the fourth largest liquid stake token in the industry. So I think that was a pretty successful way.
Gabe, I'm sorry. Did you say the largest? Repeat that for me again.
Fourth largest.
The fourth largest.
Yeah.
That's great.
In terms
Congratulations.
of TVL. Yeah, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think we're just trying to bring a lot of these yield-bearing tokens to the ecosystem. So our growth strategy for METH was pretty interesting. We sort of used like the Mantle Treasury in a very interesting way, where we essentially use the treasury funds to earn staking yield from ETH, and a lot of that was redirected back to METH holders, right? So essentially, we doubled the ETH staking APR on METH. Rather than like the typical 3 to 4%, we managed to achieve like 7.2%, and that was proven to be quite successful. And we're sort of trying to work with more teams to bring a lot of these composable and yield-bearing assets to the ecosystem, right? Our most recent partnership with Ethena and USDE was a pretty big one as well. Just trying to bring USDE to the Mantle ecosystem alongside Pendle, creating like a very composable ecosystem where users can play with these like DeFi protocols and overlap like DeFi money Legos on top of each other, right? So I think that's something that I'm really interested in, trying to bring more of these like innovative protocols to the Mantle ecosystem.
Well, no, and it's like what you said earlier. It's not just about like growing out, right? But kind of, it's almost like a spider web, right? If I can say that, because everybody kind of
Exactly.
is able to collaborate a little bit, and it just builds that stronger foundation for the entire ecosystem. So I think that's wonderful. Also, really want to highlight what you said earlier about not just throwing out these APYs and these rewards and things, but actually creating this and distributing them with a sort of sustainable model and having that technology. I was watching a recent interview, and it was like, you know, there are airdrops, and we're getting the community excited for it, or the community is excited for it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that when you have the technology to back it up, right? Bring them over and then actually back this up with something. And I think that's a wonderful approach as well, right? Even just having
exactly.
the vision though, and knowing that it's not like we just need to throw these rewards out at them. But at least, I mean, we learned a lot from DeFi Summer, right? It's not sustainable, a lot of these rewards programs, but to get creative with them, I think is kind of key. We've got Dunks here joining us. I'm going to bring him up on stage with Velocimeter. I know he was running a little bit late, but I'm glad he was able to join us. Dunks, can you hear me okay?
Hey, I can hear you, yep. GM.
GM. Okay, so Dunks, we had our intros. We're kind of well in, but I want to give you the opportunity here to introduce yourself and a little bit about Velocimeter as well. We heard some big news from Bruce. We've been talking to Gabe and Mark about what's been going on, but what about with you and Velocimeter and Graphene just announced it went live on Mantle. So give us a little bit of an intro and a rundown if you would.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Sorry, I'm late. I got my times mixed up, but
it's okay.
So
it happens.
I missed all the alpha from everyone else, but yeah. So
you can still give us your own.
Yeah. So we've been live on Mantle, sort of officially and kind of fully, for around a week now. And so we've got incentives. Like I'm assuming everyone listening by now knows, what Carbon DeFi is, what Graphene is, etc. Graphene's a licensed fork of Carbon DeFi. So we've got incentives essentially for trading on Mantle. So users should be able to trade any of the tokens, trade against any of the tokens on any DEX on Mantle, or on most DEXs, against most DEXs on Mantle. Just due to the nature of how Carbon DeFi works, as opposed to like a normal DEX where you would just trade against, the liquidity on that DEX. And yeah, so we have a reward system that we kind of built into Velocimeter, which is a V33 DEX, like a solidly type DEX. So yeah, if it's probably easier to check it out than to like fully explain how the reward system works. But ultimately, like, you can just set up to trade any pair that you want, and ultimately end up earning WMNT Mantle tokens, which is kindly given to us from the Mantle Foundation as part of their ecosystem grants and incentives program, which is ongoing, which is really awesome. So that's probably
I went ahead and
pretty
shared
long
that too,
paragraph.
No. Your recent publication announcing your participation in the Journey campaign, Mantle's campaign, and then the announcing of your own campaign as well with Velocimeter and Graphene. So I shared that in the comments for any of our listeners or our viewers who wanted to know more. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I always try to include links to, relevant links to the discussion that we're having. So take a look there for sure. Okay, so Dunks, thank you so much. We were talking about the rewards program and things of that sort. Are you also participating in, Gabe, please remind me of the name of the ongoing campaign at the moment.
Yeah, right now we have Mantle
It's
Missions.
like tasks. Mantle Missions, thank you.
Right.
Mantle Missions. Dunks, are you guys doing Mantle Missions with Velocimeter and Graphene?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Like it's based around quests. A lot of like different questing platforms and stuff like this. So I believe that what we like, the reward system is, you could probably call that separate from the Mantle missions. But I believe that we're also cooking some stuff on the questing side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so I
Bruce,
would
did
say
you say
that the rewards program might be separate from the Mantle mission, just because it's not quest based.
Mm-hmm.
This
is kind of almost a way to gamify getting to know the ecosystem and participating, right, Gabe?
Yeah, exactly. So any team can come to us and sort of set up their own quest. I actually see Velocimeter on here as well.
Yeah.
I'll just
Bruce,
drop
you
the
guys
link
have
in
yours
chat.
set up as well?
We are working on that, and it will start with the Supernova.
Ah, okay, awesome. It'll start with Supernova. Is there where can someone learn a little bit more? Because I know that graphene is now live. I know Supernova is going to be, like you said, deploying this week, right?
Yeah, so
Where
basically,
can
we will most probably it will be it's very early version, so I'm not very like I won't give the URL yet. Okay, but most probably we will announce it like because it's currently like beta testing right now, and we are testing all the features, like all the limit order and all. Most of the like you can consider 90% features are tested. We are just testing some log related features like to show you your past transactions related to your strategy and all. And once that is live, then we will announce it on Twitter, Discord, and Telegram with the mental missions.
did you guys integrate the simulator out of curiosity?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay.
We are
Will
working
it
on
be
that.
available for users eventually? Will you be including that?
Yeah,
Do you plan
we
to?
plan to we plan to have it on day 0.
I know that that's a big question, right? It kind of is fun for a lot of the users to be able to just see what different
Yeah,
token
for
pairs
that.
would look like when trading against each other. And Dumps, correct
Yep,
me if I'm
yep.
wrong, but the simulator's not yet on graphene, right?
Yeah, it's not yet. We also definitely we love it. We just haven't quite got there with getting it up and running.
It's no worries. I just figure, you know what? We have I get those questions all the time, so I figured I would just front run them knowing that they're going to come in. Will the simulator be there? Do they plan on, adding it to their front end? So, Mark, I see you're sharing your screen. You want me to bring you up here? You muted.
Yeah, I thought that since we're talking about the simulator, we may as well have a quick look at what it is.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So yeah, I'm really glad to to have brought this thing to fruition. This has been something I've sort of wanted for a really long time, not just in the sense that we're simulating strategies on Carbon, but even just in the ability to create custom price charts in any token that you want. So for example, a very common restriction that you might have with products such as TradingView is that they're very prescriptive on like how the candlestick charts that they're going to present you with are denominated. So for example, it's very common to see like the Aave chart, and people do technical analysis and things like this, and they'll do that either versus the US dollar or maybe something like ETH, and pull up a chart that way. So this is currently not super exciting, although it's pretty cool to have it as a part of a native DeFi product. And if you're really lucky, you might find that some tokens are sufficiently sufficiently important to be able to get a price chart versus something like Bitcoin. But that's really it. If you have a look around, you'll probably find that these are essentially the options that you're limited to. And the advantage to being on chain and the advantage to using the types of decentralized exchange and liquidity products that have been developed around around cryptocurrency and specifically for smart contract chains is that there is no requirement that you need to use a certain numeraire. So for example, if we wanted to have a look at the price of Aave in let's say like Uniswap tokens, like has anyone ever said, I want to have a look at these two tokens and either trade them against each other or even just look at it, like do some technical analysis to determine whether or not I think, Aave is in an uptrend versus Uni or whatever. And, you can flip this around as well. If you wanted to know what the price of Uni is in terms of Aave tokens, you can do this. if you are interested to see how, Uni is performing versus a token like SNX, right? Another, another DeFi token with maybe a fairly similar, trading profile. This is a way that you can do that. And so the purpose of this isn't just to get these charts going, but also to work out what you can do to trade against them. So if we take, for example, just this last part here. So I'm going to use the last 90 days and just ask the question, if I was a very, if I had the benefit of hindsight and I wanted to know exactly how I wanted to trade this chart, let's imagine setting up, these are called range orders, which is very similar to scaling, scaling in and out of a position, if you're familiar with that nomenclature instead. And what we're doing here is by connecting these scaling strategies together to create a fading strategy, or what we call a recurring order in Carbon DeFi, is we're going to now investigate and actually measure, how financially performant this thing would have been. And I'm just going to set this up with like a random number of Uni tokens. So 1, 2, 3, let's say 0.456. And I'm going to set this up with 0 SNX. Just one, because I think it's a good way to show off the fact that we can create limit orders with tokens that we haven't yet purchased. And also because I can see that on the simulation, if we are, if we're measuring our performance here, it would be better to be 100% Uni tokens as the price moves up here. So this is partly a hindsight optimization, which is totally fine. And then we can simulate, how performant this would have been in the tokens that we've denominated this position in. And it's important to realize here that these returns, and this is just over the last 90 days, is being measured relative to the buy and hold position. So you'll see frequently in DeFi, there's a lot of sort of creative account keeping. Like maybe they compare it to the US dollar or something, which means that during a bull market, it can be very easy to report higher returns simply because the tokens that you have are growing up in value, even if the trading strategy that you are subscribing to is not very performant. And so we try to take a much more, a much more informed approach by actually measuring the performance of these trading strategies versus the HODL position. And in this case, a 20.85% ROI is what we're getting here. And it's probably worth having a good look at exactly how this operates. And so at the moment,
Mark,
this is sure.
Really quickly, just so that we all know, we have about 5 minutes. You don't
Sure.
have to
Well,
stop.
I can. Yeah, I just wanted to say that because we're the site that I'm connected to right now is the Carbon DeFi website on Ethereum, and so we're at this destination, it has all of the Ethereum ERC20 tokens available to it. And so when we were speaking about whether or not when Jen was asking, Dunks and Bruce if they were going to integrate the simulator, this is the product that we're speaking about. And so that it doesn't just give users access to a backtesting a backtesting resource that might help them to become more familiar with with using the product and even make them maybe a slightly more informed trader in the process. But it is also sort of a de facto price chart generator. And so if there's a lot of unique tokens that are appearing in the Mantle ecosystem, and in Velocimeter's case in the base ecosystem and Phantom and so on and so forth, this can actually be a very compelling replacement to things like CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, which will only give you the tokens that it feels like, and will only give you them denominated in either USDC, USDT, or DAI usually, or just generically versus the US dollar or versus ETH or something like that. Whereas now you've got a much more holistic way of viewing markets and viewing tokens, not necessarily denominated in just those, in just those tokens, but denominated in each other. So it's a really fantastic resource, and I'm very happy to hear that we'll likely see it on Velocimeters and FusionX's deployments on, or should I say, on Supernova.
And essentially, like the fact that you can just grab any token, any two tokens, and chart them against each other and simulate them is like amazing. But the fact that with Carbon DeFi, you can also actually trade that pair in an with an automated way, even though that pair like may be it could be that let's say obviously the tokens have to exist on the chain,
sure,
right? Like you can't, if there's no uni tokens on Mantle, for example, then you can't trade uni versus WMNT or versus Pendle or whatever. But if those two tokens do exist on the chain, there doesn't have to be deep liquidity for them on Carbon DeFi, although there could be. And say, for example, there could be even there might be liquidity on Graphene for a certain token, and there might be liquidity on FusionX for another token, or maybe on FusionX there's deep liquidity for one, and then on Clio or one of the other dexes on Mantle there might be liquidity for the other, but through either through Carbon DeFi essentially, you can kind of bring those together and have the Fastlane protocol essentially handle the swapping for you according to your settings, and it will work, which is actually crazy. Like it's not something that it takes a little while to get your head around that fact, because it is unusual. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw that in there.
Yeah, so this is that philosophy that we were speaking about, where it's important to not treat these.
Yeah, I also like to say the same thing. Like, let's say if we take an example of, let's say, Puff token, right? Puff has the deep liquidity on, let's say, MATLAB, right? And maybe you want some other, like MATLAB is another DEX, and maybe we can have some other token we want to trade against, let's say KTC or let's say Clio or anything, right? Irrespective of their DEXs, right? Like Velocimeter, BVM, and all, right? So this is not available easily, right? Outside Carbon DeFi, you don't see at the base level. You see a DEX where on the same DEX you swap two tokens, then on top of that then comes aggregator, right? But again, having strategy product, like you can run your own strategy for across those aggregators. That is like the end game for DeFi to make your trades and everything. And that's why when I saw the Carbon DeFi first time, I immediately pinged Carbon team and Banker team that we want to discuss this. How can we bring it on Mantle and all that? And the Velocimeter team is doing fantastic job in terms of with the graphene and all.
Thank you guys so much. I hate to cut it short, but we do. I mean, we have maybe 3 more minutes. I want to give everybody the opportunity to just add some final thoughts. Gabe, I didn't mean to go into the, so deep into that. I don't want to leave anything out though, in terms of like the entire DeFi sector on Mantle. So if there's anything else that you'd like to add that you want our viewers to know, our audience to know, any possible projects, right, that are looking to maybe deploy on Mantle, what would you want them to know? Give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we've got a few things coming. So I know I mentioned MEF earlier, right? The Mantle Liquid Staking Protocol.
Yes.
So there's a new proposal up on our Mantle forums that is essentially exploring like the next phase of MEF, right? And what are like the next steps. And if this proposal goes through, we'll likely explore creating our own like liquid restaked token of MEF. So I think that will be a pretty interesting one for us. It's kind of like a nod to like the liquid restaking industry, right? And it's our foray into that space as well. So I think right now the Mantle ecosystem, it tends to be very active in pursuing a lot of the latest innovations and just trying to be in the space, right? Be in the weeds. On top of that, there's also another what we just announced, which is FBTC, essentially a wrapped version of BTC that's maybe 10 times better, hopefully.
Oh, I missed that announcement. Darn. Okay, so maybe you can come back and join me again, because I feel like now, like, I would like to know more about these, like the wrap Bitcoin that you're saying is, you know, potentially 10 times better, and your liquid staking token. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's exciting. I missed that announcement myself.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of interesting things happening in Mantle all the time. So
We
yeah,
definitely need more BTC on chain. It's
definitely.
like it's mega lacking right now. That's awesome.
Well, Mantle's doing their part, right? Thank
Yeah,
you guys.
hopefully.
Gabe, I didn't mean to cut you off. Any more final thoughts for us?
Nope, I'm good. I think we've covered quite a lot in this talk. So yeah, really
Yes.
great to chat with you guys.
You also, thank you so much. Really looking forward to seeing the results of the proposal. I had seen that, but apparently, I mean, I need to keep a closer eye. I love having calls like this because you can't keep up on everything happening in the space, and it's great to kind of hear it firsthand. Mark, thank you so much for joining us and for speaking about the ARB Fastlane and Carbon DeFi. Bruce, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Definitely looking to hearing and seeing more of Supernova, right? We haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing the announcement. And Dunks, I know that you were a little bit late, but it was great to have you. Looking forward to seeing how the rewards campaign plays out. And if anyone has any questions, I've put all of our links there in the comments. Feel free to reach out to me as well. Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Gabe, again, congratulations on everything going on Mantle right now. Lots of things happening, and I'm glad that you're able to join us and to tell all of our listeners about it.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for hosting.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.